Okay, welcome everyone to the event of today, Unlocking Llama 3, an interactive Q&A with Meta's AI expert, t.scialom. This is today a very special event because we don't have the typical presentation, but rather a discussion with Thomas. And this is a very unique opportunity of having such an expert with us, with the community today. Before we go to the actual point, Thomas, allow me just to introduce for those who are new to the community. The Gen AI Gurus is a community now, or it will be very soon 1 year old, and I have just got the information that we are exactly 1,000 members at the moment, or maybe in the next seconds 1,001, but it's a very funny situation. What we do is mostly community calls. We connect experts from different disciplines, different industries and academia, and also expert talks. We bring the best of the best to the gurus, let's say, to this community. And of course, we have our LinkedIn group, and you see on the right some of the most active Gen AI Gurus members. This is a dynamic list. But thanks to the community, we keep doing this and keep improving. We have we use this call is being recorded. We will upload it to YouTube at the end, so you can also check our YouTube channel. In our website, you have the links to everything else, and also we have a Discord server and GitHub repos. Discord server is where we have most of the discussions. Just that you get an idea what we are doing at the moment. Today we are in this event, so exactly 1,000 members, at least 1 or 2 minutes ago. Next week we will have the expert talk from Pandas AI CEO. He will talk about the product and his journey in the Y Combinator, a startup accelerator, very interesting. And the 17th of June, we will have the next community call, the monthly event where we can connect with other people. And on 27th of June, we will have a discussion with law experts from Silicon Valley about privacy related topics and legality when using Gen AI tools. What we have also running now, which is not visible here because it's a past event already, is we had last week the kickoff for the project incubator. So we have at the moment 11 projects, if I remember right, which are getting pushed from idea to an MVP in the next 3 months with a set of activities to support the people. Now, coming back to the point of today, we want to we have a long list of questions for Thomas, which we collected over the last couple of weeks. And we want to organize it in this way. We will first look at the introduction of Thomas, of course, and there are also some questions related to that. We will look at questions specific to Llama 3, safety and security consideration of LLMs, LLM benchmarks, business in AI, agentic approaches, ethical AI considerations, and there is also a lot of questions, or some questions at least, about what kinds of resources an expert from Meta uses in his daily life. Feel free to use the Q&A or the chat if you want to add questions live. We try to address them. But we still try to go in this order. So if we are already talking about LLM benchmarks and we already talked about safety, maybe we cannot touch the safety because we'll be coming back. But if we try to follow that order, then we try to address the questions. I keep admitting people because I need to click this button. But okay, we are now at 26 people. So Thomas, then let's go ahead. Maybe you can welcome and maybe you can tell us something about you.
Yeah, well, hello everyone, and thanks for having me here. I'm t.scialom. I'm a researcher at Meta. I worked on large language models here for like the last 2 years, including Galactica, Llama 2, and now Llama 3, focusing now on the post-training aspect. I worked on other things I see now here, agentic. This is also one of the domains I'm interested about. Before that, I did a PhD in natural language generation reinforcement learning. And before, I worked a few years in bank in trading commodities that's a previous life.
Okay, very cool. Maybe you can tell us, how did you get to develop Meta, to develop Llama from Meta? So what was your previous steps?
Yeah, it was an interesting time in the LLM and AI history. Actually, what happened is that 1 year and a half ago, in December, we released Galactica, which was one of the first large language model from Meta. It was, I don't know if you remember, large language model for science, trained on like science and archive and reasoning tokens and things like that. It did quite a blast on internet. It created like a huge polemic. We had to remove after 3 days, like the model line. What happened is that 2 weeks after ChatGPT was released, and it was a huge turning point at Meta, where we had from the top and Mark Zuckerberg pivot, where we decided to focus on AI and this kind of technology in particular, which requires much more focus, larger teams, more like commitment in terms of resources, GPUs, annotation budget. That's where I started to work with my friends in Paris who worked on Llama 1. So Llama 2 is mainly basically Llama 1 in terms of pre-training, just scale in a bit more tokens, plus the RLHF and chat alignment to follow instructions. And in fact, one of the things that happened is after Galactica, I was actually focusing on instruction tuning and a version of Galactica that could follow instruction and plug like maybe on overleaf, where like you could ask swipe in LaTeX to columns, or what's the citation for this, or things like that. And that was the first contract we signed with an annotation platform at the time. So naturally, when things moved in January at Meta, with like the company to focus on this technology, basically extended this effort and the Llama 1 people working like 1 meter from me in the office in Paris. And well, we worked on Llama 2.
Okay, sounds very cool. And who would you say were your biggest influencers or mentors in this domain? Do you have some references in your career that you say this and this guy really changed my way of thinking?
I mean, there's a lot, to be honest. Maybe, I could say there's one paper in particular, AlphaGo, because that's actually the moment where when AlphaGo went out and I saw that, I decided to drop finance and to do a PhD in the field to get deeper.
Okay.
So that's probably the paper that influenced me the most for my career and my life in general here.
And is there like a personality, one or someone who you say this person inspired me so much to do this, or I follow or something? Yeah?
Sure. I mean, David Silver at DeepMind is probably one of the biggest name there. I think also Yann LeCun, of course, at Meta is one of the people that influenced me, inspired me, and keep inspiring me here.
Okay.
And honestly, there's so many other names that are fascinating around.
Yeah. Okay. Too many to.
Well, maybe a third one actually is Ilya Sutskever. For his vision of Transformer, sec-to-sec, scaling, and all these foundation things that leads us right now. I think OpenAI also contributed massively to where we are, from like PPO, RLHF, LLMs, and what he has built there is pretty inspiring.
Okay, that's interesting. Looking into your daily life at Meta, so how does a typical day look for you?
Well, I don't think there's a typical day, to be honest. Let's say right now, the last month has been focusing on leading post-training of Llama 3. That includes moving from one topic to another one, or there's problem on factuality, or the problem on what should we do there, or the annotation, or what's the strategy. I guess the main thing is thinking what is the main problem to solve? What is the most important thing to work on, to spend my time, trying to deeply understand the problem, like from first principles, collecting more data if needed, more ablation, more experiments to get informed, and then to drive some directions based also on a lot of intuition, because we cannot like control everything at this scale.
There is a question about this. All of this of AI goes really fast, so people are overwhelmed to follow, right? And they are wondering, how do you stay updated and continue learning in this way? So not just in your very narrow maybe area of expertise and research, but yeah, following the trends.
Yeah, I think it's a problem that everyone faced, like including researchers in a top lab like at Meta, like me. I think some advice I can give is, first, accepting this is okay. And it's fine to not be aware of everything in a minute. On my side, I take a lot of time on, I spend a lot of time on Twitter, following the trends, etc. Yeah, is it the perfect strategy? I don't know. At least it keeps me updated of the main things. Then, one of the big cool thing at Meta is you have an ecosystem of great researchers that can help you to be updated of, oh, have you seen that? Oh, and then this guy is telling me this. I trust him, so I should spend some time on that. So this is largely contributing to keeping me updated. What else? Another thing is, I tend to read like fewer papers, because also one thing is there's a lot of noise around. Most of the frontier models, none of the recipes have been disclosed. I think there's only Meta that published still research papers and not technical reports with just numbers, and that's it. So that helps a lot. So now the thing is, there's probably a lot of cool ideas in those papers, but on small scale experiments, and there's probably a lot that we're missing. But if one is getting some trends, we can re-implement it here, mix it with other ideas we have, and things like that. But things have changed massively in the last few years, in the sense that, like, Transformer today will not be published again. And if it happens, like, we don't know the architecture of GPT or Gemini publicly. So there's a lot of rumors of things like connections to talk to. That's one thing. The other thing is also the test of time. I tend to try to spend not a lot of time on like recent things. And if like things come back again, I will get more importance to that and start to get deeper on this topic.
Yeah. Okay. So you focus only on new things if you see them coming again and again. Okay.
Yeah.
Is AI, you would say, also a hobby for your weekend and your vacation, or you do other things also? Because yeah, it looks like to be in your level, yeah, people are also wondering about that.
I think it changed over time. During my PhD, definitely, I was working all the weekends, just as a hobby, as a passion. At the beginning of Meta, it was I think it depends on the project, to be honest. Like right now, like with a larger team, more focused, like but also more in breadth with post-training, which becomes like a lot of different capabilities, a lot of different things. It's less a weekend. I mean, there's some work to execute on the weekend, but it's less a hobby. While when I will move back, maybe after Llama 3 on like some deeper technical projects from scratch, from 0 to 1 and not from 1 to 100, there's a lot of chance I will work again as a hobby on that.
Yeah.
Like this magic of like working on something new and building from scratch.
Yeah. Yeah. But as orientation, is a typical week for you like 40 hours or 60 hours or 80 hours, or how does it look?
I don't know, like from 8 to 8 and a bit after the dinner. Yeah, probably some decent amount of time, but more than 60 hours per week.
looking back in your last years, so do you have an advice for young researchers who maybe are, let's say, 3, 4, 5 years behind you that you could give to them in the current situation?
I mean, I think things has changed massively from when I did my PhD, but I guess the first advice is work on something you enjoy. Also, maybe one thing I will have done differently today than at the time of PhD is select the problem you're working on. Is the problem you're working on important or not? A goal is not to publish a paper, to get citations, to do a fancy new algorithm. From my perspective, the goal should be more, is the problem I'm working on an important problem as a researcher? Will it be impactful if I help the field moving forward? And taking more time to select what is an important problem and then working on is probably a good advice in general.
Okay, so to choose better your battles, to prioritize better, right?
Yes.
And drop everything else.
Yeah, and which is another like follow-up advice. Also prioritize and drop everything that is not like the focus on this. Once you have selected this one, focus on that. Don't spread yourself on like 10 different projects with like small impact, spreading your impact everywhere.
Yeah, this of course needs a lot of discipline and also self-control in your mind. Do you do some kind of meditation or something like that? That not really.
No, I did some yoga at some point for like few lessons, and I was terrible.
Okay.
And I just quit it after 4 lessons.
Okay, there is one last question. People interested on you and your not in this case your background, but more looking forward. So, what are your personal goals and aspirations in AI research? If you think in 5 years or in 10 years, how do you imagine yourself?
I mean, you mean for the field or personally?
Personally.
Personally, I don't care a lot, to be honest. I mean, I'm already very lucky and grateful to be at this position right now. Anything that can help to contribute to, I'll basically try always to work on a domain that I can move science forward and I can maximize my impact there. More than that, I don't like have personal agendas, to be honest, right now.
Okay. And for AI, this comes later on also, but now it fits also. How do you see AI in 5 years or 10 years? Where would you like it to be?
Yeah, I mean, obviously AGI, whatever we define it, is a goal per se. I think what is very challenging right now, and if you reflect the last decade in AI progress, is that if you look back 1 year ago or 6 months ago, it feels like, I mean, it feels we didn't do a lot. We didn't, if I look myself on what I have done, not that much, or like the progress is not big. But then if you look back at like a bit more than that, and 2 years, 3 years, a decade for the field, that's crazy. And it's very hard to anticipate. So I think we can be like very disappointed of where the AI will be in like in the next 2 months or 6 months and say, oh, there's not a lot of progress with respect to GPT-4, which was a year ago already. That's kind of true, but not totally, not entirely true, to be honest. But then it's likely that if we look back now 2 years ago, and the same will happen even exponentially more faster in the coming months and years, because for like fundamental reasons, you know, like there's value now with this technology. So there's more investment, more money funded that. There are also more people willing to work on that. I mean, what's the amount of people working on AI now compared to a decade ago? That's massive. And so all those factors will probably shift the technology, are like accelerating. There are big factors to accelerate the technology. So I don't see any reason to plateau. And I mean, even if LLMs was not the end of the story, that's fine, we can discuss that. Like scaling is not the end. Sure, but there's so many new people working on that, so many more money to fund that work. And it will not stop. There will not be like a new decade of desert for AI, since that it's already useful for the society. There's already products based on that. So we won't like have a desert like Jan and others had 2 decades ago. So all that to say, I think it will, the current trend will keep accelerating, which leads us to some very interesting, I think short term, those large language models will keep significantly increasing. And we are moving progressively towards more like agent. Is it an LLM or not? I mean, it's a system that has the LLM capabilities in a multimodal fashion end-to-end. GPT-4o showed that, but like small works. All that integrated with some capabilities of agents to progressively plan for 2, 3, 4 steps and more later, to act in the world, to access internet, code execution, all those things. And ultimately, that leaves us to, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years, some general systems that are better than most humans in expert capabilities, math, reasoning, code, and all those things. Maybe not better than the main experts on their domain for each, but also like have general capabilities that so that we can all have a personal assistant somehow.
Okay. We need to move on to the second block because time is already running. And from the general introduction from you, Thomas, now we have questions about specifically about Llama 3. And of course, it is open weight, I would say, not maybe completely open source, but the first question, and I can read from Meta AI blog post about Llama 3, it says, in the coming months, we expect to introduce new capabilities, longer context windows, additional model sizes, and enhanced performance, and we will share the Llama 3 research paper. So this leaves a lot of room for things upcoming. So people are wondering, okay, is there something we can, the direction of what these new capabilities are, is it meant? Is it multimodality, or how about the research paper? We are still waiting for it.
Yeah, I mean, truth is, the model, when we released the preview, it was just to give like a preview, but also like to share this work earlier than later. The truth is, the model, and I think we said that publicly, like the big model was still training. It wasn't even finished. Now you have to align it to do all the RLHF, things like that. We're currently doing that. Of course, we want to do some multimodality, some long context, but this is basically happening right now. So we will definitely land a paper, but first we need to finalize a model and to get the final numbers in the paper, basically. I cannot like promise any date because this is ongoing research, basically. But as soon as, and we are the first that are willing to push that faster than later, earlier than later, as soon as we will have all those capabilities in a single model with good results we'll be proud of, we will release that along with a paper explaining everything.
When you say you are still training the model, you mean the 400 billion?
Yeah. Basically, once it was still training when we released the preview, and but that's for pre-training. After that, you have to align it. You have to adapt it for long context, to connect it with multimodality. You have to do also RLHF, because the RLHF before was done with an earlier version of the model, which was not completed. So all that work is still happening, and we are waiting to complete that properly to release the models. All right.
In the same blog post, it mentions about 4 key ingredients: the model architecture, the pre-training data, scaling up the pre-training, and the instruction fine-tuning. What are, in your view, the most important ingredients or aspects which made Llama 3 so much better than Llama 2?
What do you think?
The data, maybe? I don't know. But you tell me.
I think, to be honest, everything. And that's like, I really believe that. I heard a lot of people saying post-training was very important. I mean, I will not say the opposite. I let the post-training part. But I think, to be honest, we saw a huge jump when we had a new pre-trained model, much better. So pre-training was definitely very important. Now, on pre-training, what was important? I mean, arguably scaling the weight, scaling the data, good data, good quality of data, and more compute, basically, on pre-training. On post-training, we just did a preliminary work somehow with Llama 2, focusing on general helpfulness, instruction following, like vanilla instruction following. So we now extending that much beyond on a lot of new capabilities, better algorithms, more data, more annotation as well. And so scaling that was very important, has been very important. And so that's a combination of everything here. I feel like, for instance, maybe I can answer that way. If we have done the same post-training with Llama 2 pre-trained model, the result would have been slightly better. Now, if we had aligned the new pre-trained model with the alignment from Llama 2, the model will be slightly better than Llama 2.
Okay.
So that's totally the combination of both that makes it exponentially better.
Okay, and looking at the future, so if we think of Llama 4, you're still finishing Llama 3, but I'm sure you have already some ideas or thoughts on which direction the future of Llama 4 would make an impact. Is it again these 4 ingredients, or is there some new ingredients?
I mean, basically always the same. You find a better recipe, whatever you change the parameters, the architecture, mixture of experts, then the data mixture, and more data is always better. So you find a better recipe that you can scale. You put as much as data as you can and as good data, and you put more compute there to scale it in terms of weights and data. That's that will clearly be a good way to increase for Llama 4 on pre-training, like nothing secret. Now, how to find this new recipe, how to collect this new data will be a lot of actual work happening. With respect to post-training, I think we're still very, very early in the field. And there's, honestly, I think we are at a stone age here. And there's like thousands of things. We just have explored 1%. And there's so many techniques, methods that could help to find better recipe, better annotation manner, feeding better post-training data that will benefit different capabilities.
Okay. There is another question about the blog post. I read it. The chinchilla scaling laws do not seem to always apply according to the information we see in this blog post. So what would be then the new scaling laws? If more data keeps improving performance forever, then let's take a very small model to video or less even, and we can run it in our phone, but we train it with all the data we have. Is that the future Apple Siri or whatever, something you have in your phone? Or where are the limits? What do you think about that?
I think I disagree with the claim that the chinchilla doesn't hold scaling laws. It actually does. The thing is, there's 2 dimensions you can scale: the model size or the data size. And what chinchilla told us was that there's given a budget of compute, you can apply this budget, and there's a balance which is optimal between the model size and the number of tokens of data, basically, to get the best results with given this training. The thing is, you want actually, when you are at Meta and you have billions of people, and as a researcher, you want your model to be used by the community, inference matter. And so the thing is, at inference time, not at training time, not the perfect figure on table on your paper, but inference time, there's one dimension that stays, the model size. Bigger the model, the more costly for inference. But one dimension that drops, the number of tokens. You can train your model on 1 billion token or 100 trillion of tokens. It will cost the same at inference time, right? And so what we did is that, what I call this the chinchilla trap, basically. You don't want a perfect balance between size of the model and data for your table in your paper saying, given my budget, I get the best result. Not actually to overtrain it massively so that the final model is super good, much better. Maybe you could get a better model training less data and a bigger model. But this model will be super good in terms of inference balance and performance. And so we still see some diminishing return training it on longer. That was expected from t.scialom paper, but just we didn't stop at the right balance, but more like we overtraining on as we could.
Yeah. So it's about making the optimized cost of investment for your money. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you tried Phi 3, 8 billion concretely, and compare it to Llama 3, 8 billion? What is, because there seems to be a lot of noise about that. What is the secret ingredient which makes this one so good? Or are we talking about benchmark tricks potentially?
Which one, sorry?
Phi 3 from Microsoft.
Phi 3, I mean, I saw a lot of different things. People trying to sweep to change like a week or a month and didn't get the same result. I honestly don't know. I'm not sure it's as good as that. I remember like Scale AI published a benchmark showing that on a GSM-8 on math, the model was very good, and then when they annotated new data, it was worse. That being said, I think the direction is very promising, having like a reasoning model that can do a lot of reasoning and things like that. And like with the intuition that if you can give access to a search engine to a model, maybe like this is enough and you don't need to store all the knowledge of the world into the weights. So I think the direction is pretty promising, but I haven't seen Theas yet as good as Llama.
Okay. There is also, so looking at more and more competitors or alternatives from Mistral AI, they use the mixture of experts, and it seems like Llama 3 is not using that. Is there a reason for that, or is Llama 4 going to use that, or what do you think about that?
I think let's distinguish between two things here. A true mixture of experts from scratch, where you have natively a mixture of expert architecture, we'll definitely investigate that. But somehow I tend to think that a dense model is just is a MOE with a mixture of experts with just one expert. So it's just a generalization of this, playing with one additional hyperparameters to optimize. And we'll definitely look at that in the future. Now Mixtral was interesting in the sense that it initialized the model with a dense model, but just push it further with which was very compute wise to get better performance. Well, first of all, we release a preview, so anyone in the community can play with that and try these kind of things now for free. And I'm looking forward to see this kind of work. And we'll definitely look at that internally as well, if we can get something.
All right. Yeah. One last question in this block, in the Llama 3. There is someone who is interested in, can it be done to force Llama 3 to reply on with function calls or function calling, I think. So not text, but JSON for calling tools.
It's definitely under our radar.
Okay, so you cannot say more on that, but it's something which is important somehow.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we move to the third block, which is safety and security of LLMs. There are not many questions here, but let's go to it. Maybe let's see. There is a point about if automated adversarial example generation is possible with LLMs, why do we keep seeing LLMs being jailbroken or misused? So why not follow a similar approach like generative adversarial networks to have an LLM generating adversarial examples, and the LLM under test, which keeps improving and being more and more robust against these kind of attacks in an automated way? Is this something, or is this nonsense?
Some works in this kind of directions with like Rainbow. There's a paper called Rainbow Adversarial with a new method similar to that. This is definitely some stuff that people are checking around. Not that one of the main limitations here is that it's kind of the main problem is, as opposed to get kind of self-contained game like the Go game, where you know if the answer is correct or not, you cannot do this kind of recursive loops, because at some point, if your LLM is not able to is hacked for this, what is a hack is probably something he doesn't know, and so asking an LLM again to makes it like problematic. So if you don't add external information, which could be a human in the loop or anything else, that becomes tricky.
Yeah. Okay. Moving to benchmarks and the controversy around it. So every time an LLM, a top LLM gets published, everyone wants to understand, okay, how does it compare to others? And there is for sure many benchmarks and several methods to run the benchmark, and everyone uses something different, which seems to put their LLM on top. So is this chaotic situation going to stop? Is it ELO, the ELO rating, the solution in your opinion, like the LMC's leadership leaderboard?
So first, I don't think it will stop anytime soon. It will actually become harder and harder because, like it's like measuring human intelligence, like IQ is something very dumb and we don't have a good way. And the smarter those models will become, the harder it will get to distinguish between two models, which one is better, because the nuances will become finer. You will have some models that are better maybe on some capabilities, some others on others. And as the capabilities become harder, evaluating them on this like broader space of possibilities, capabilities, will become like a nightmare. Now, that being said, I think Elo score is definitely not the solution. In particular on the arena. Look, Llama 3, 8 billion, I think, was measured as better than GPT-4 for some versions. Well, I don't think it's true. Let me say, like,
okay.
This is completely like this is not the case. GPT-4 is much better than Llama 3 8 billion. No problem to say that.
Maybe the sampling was not big enough, or there might be something.
The sample was big enough, and the issue is more that the people that asked those prompts and were judged were biased toward very simple prompts. And so the fact is, evaluating those models, even for humans, asking complex prompts on a very like large space of very complex prompts, instructions, requiring a lot of steps, reasoning, is actually very hard. Thinking about those prompts is a full-time job that researchers on the arena cannot do. They're not trained to do. So this is more telling us that we are not good at evaluating those models rather than anything else right now. So there will be some research. I saw that the arena, the people from LLMs started to now focusing on more like the hard prompts, things like that, like new categories like that. This is a good way, a good direction, and we will get better things soon thanks to that. But soon it will be already saturated, and the problem is just like a moving target. I think overall that's fine. Like as always, evaluation is a moving target. As we get better models, we will have saturating current evaluation, and new evaluation will emerge, and we'll solve them, which means progress, and so on.
Yeah, so this is a never-ending story also, because I see the question, someone saying the issue with data contamination, new LLMs learn what are the correct answers for the benchmark. So yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't there like a dynamic way to create questions that are not predefined or something?
I mean, somehow I believe, like we published recently GAIA, General AI Assistant benchmark, where questions are formulated in a way that there's no like information leak, and you can kind of almost guarantee that. Since like maybe one question could be, for instance, go on the YouTube video of the Thomas interview by Carlos of this date and measure the number of time Thomas mentioned Llama.
Yeah.
Like this question is factual. You can verify the information. Any human will get this answer given enough time to count. But I can guarantee you that no one will have get that, and like no model will be trained on this kind of questions.
Sure.
Now, if this leaks, first of all, you can evaluate the reasoning trace of the model. Did it, when you ask a question, did it memorize that and tell you by heart like this is the answer, or did it actually go on the video, extracted the thing and get like a true reasoning. That's a way to prevent that. And then it's also kind of questions that are easy to create. That was the main thing of this benchmark.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the chat is even working, because I'm not sure. Usually people are not so quiet. Would be nice if someone writes something, or at least in the Q&A or something.
I haven't opened the chat, but
the chat is working. Okay, good. Thank you, Francisco. Good. Then let's move on to the next block, which is business in AI. So there is the questioning, why does Meta invest so many million euros in train and refine LLMs to later publish them for free in Hugging Face? Are you aware of the strategy of Meta in this respect?
I think that's super simple, to be honest. Like, look, we want to sell this model in our products. We started with Meta AI in Messenger, Instagram, WhatsApp, to billions of users possibly. Now we have a product, we have the distribution already. If someone else is building a product with our model, we're happy for him. We don't want to compete with everyone on Earth. And so that's actually a good thing. Researchers at Meta are deeply committed to open source. Like when Jan LeCun founded FAIR, that was one of the main things, like being open source, embracing open source. The last thing is also very like pragmatic. Doing that, we enable others to work with us toward progress that drives the next generation. And 10 points of improvement, let's say, on improving inference speed for like or decreasing like the compute requirement. That's a lot of money for us if we want to sell for billions of users.
Yeah.
So, as simple as that. We only see upside rather than downside here.
Okay. And there's a maybe controversial question. So does the pre-training data of Llama 3 include any user-generated data from Meta's social networks? You already answered.
No.
Yeah.
Like, only publicly available sources like. I can guarantee there's no like private user data from Meta.
Yeah, there was still the question continues because the person says in the blog post it says collected from publicly available sources. Okay, which potentially means anything public, would be public posts or anything. In Meta's social networks, public posts could be used, but only by Meta because it would be against their terms of service that someone else uses that.
I mean, look, we try to filter out this kind of data, thing like that. If there's like a message that was copied somewhere, blah blah, that ended the message, I don't know, to be honest, but no, that's clearly that's not part of the strategy.
Yeah, but isn't it a huge competitive advantage for Meta to have this huge amount of data to use it in whatever form?
That's an open question, actually. I'm not sure. Maybe, but I'm not totally convinced it will be that important to train better models. We haven't tried to, so I cannot answer this question. I don't have the conviction it will be a massive advantage.
Okay. Now comes to my mind, I have seen some Twitter posts from people trying Gemini and the answers coming totally wrong from Reddit posts or something like this. So maybe this is a good, but maybe better use the data which is checked that it is correct.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Now we move to the next block, which is about the agentic, how we call that, agentic approaches. Maybe you want to say first, because you said it's an area which it's interesting or important for you. What do you have in mind?
I mean, there's a lot of things to say, so I'll try to be brief. But well, first, I think that the next step, we have now solved language modeling from pre-training and post-training. Not solved, but moved at a certain level of intelligence that enables to unlock the next generation of models. And we can now have systems, agents, that are powered by language models and have like the cognition thanks to language models, but now also action capabilities. And then they will be grounded within a true environment not just like in a closed cycle with like an LLM right now, taking actions on the web, browsing the web, executing code on Python, things like that, and get the signal, the feedback from the environment, which in my research vision will lead to the next frontier models.
How could that come to the next frontier models?
Because that's a whole new kind of capabilities compared to before, with all new kind of data, feedback, not in a closed loop, where you can now unlock a lot of new kind of training in an agentic way, where you're not like in a closed loop, but now you can get basically any new information. That's what I call like basically beyond the weights of the model. When you have an RLHF or something like that, well, you have the human that provides information during the annotation, but that's it. At the end of the day, when you have an LLM that outputs something and a reward model that gives a score, this is still an LLM versus an LLM, and you have to plateau at some point. Now, if you have an LLM that has the ability to learn new things, learn new skills, execute, observe the output of that, and correct itself, thanks to additional information it didn't have in its weights, thanks to basically the environment feedback.
Yeah.
This is, at least in the digital world first, before any robotic thing, like a true grounding. And that could unlock a new kind of skills, capability, performance in the future.
Okay. There is a question also more like I'm not sure if it is knowledge distillation or something. Why not train LLMs with the answers from multi-agent systems so that they mimic their behavior out of the box without having multi-agent systems with LLMs?
Say again?
Yeah, why not train LLMs with already discussions between multi-agent systems so that they mimic their behavior without having a multi-agent system around?
Without, I'm not sure I understand the first part of the question.
Yeah, so that they can, so the new LLMs can mimic, can repeat somehow the behavior of multi-agent systems. So
yeah, okay, I see what you mean. Basically, probably that the data we will create with this kind of agents could be used
exactly.
for training the next generation of LLMs. Absolutely, I totally agree. Yeah.
So it would make sense to try it out, right?
Oh, definitely.
Is there a guideline about when to use multi-agent systems with smaller LLMs versus bigger vanilla LLMs without the agents?
Say again?
Yeah. I think this question comes related to, there was a study from Andrew Eng's team, which showed that, I don't remember the name of the paper, but it showed that LLMs using advanced prompt engineering or multi-agent systems give much better performance in human eval, for example, than vanilla LLMs. And then the question is if there is a guideline when to use either a multi-agent system with a small LLM or much bigger LLM without software around, without a multi-agent approach.
Well, I don't think there's a good answer to this question. Like, it depends on the tasks, the thing. I mean, small LLMs are faster and more efficient. Connected with tools, it can be like very good. Now, if the small LLM doesn't have the ability to query the right tools to act properly, it's like useless. On the other hand, like if your use case require external information to use, and you have just a large LLM that is not connected to anything, that's useless as well. So I would say it really depends on a lot of things.
Yeah, okay. There is still no questions in Q&A. So then we move to the block ethical AI. So the question here is, and it's long, but I hope I can try to summarize it. Where should the limits of LLM answer be? So, for example, if someone asks, how can I crack into a Windows PC without knowing the password? Llama, someone has tried it. Llama 3.8b does not provide the answer. Llama 3.7b provides detailed instructions about how to use tools for that. Is that, in your opinion, misbehavior or?
It's hard to answer, because this kind of question. So first thing is, we saw a lot of cases where there's something that is unethical to ask. And on the other hand, you have a lot of use cases when you want your model to be able to do that. In the sense that it can, for instance, for some security companies, create some good quality of data to train some models, classifiers. Now, I tend to think like this information is on the internet. Like you can write a blog post tomorrow about this, and that's totally legal and it will be referenced on Google, right?
Yeah.
So why should we apply a different rule here? That's my
It
answer.
makes it the availability is going down, right? So it's much more available. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but like we should not. I mean, if a technology makes something more available or change the distribution, maybe we can think again about the laws. But it's already legal to have that on Google. So my question is, should we make it illegal everywhere? And if the answer is no, I don't see why we should do it more for LLMs.
Yeah. Is there something which especially worries you in relation to the impact of AI acceleration in the society? Difficult question, I guess.
I mean, yes and no. Somehow I'm optimistic by nature. That being said, those models will have tremendous impact. I think mostly beneficial, but maybe the main thing that not worry me, but we should be vigilant is regarding the fact that like change technology has shaped the world through like years in the history. That's part of our history as humans. That the thing is, the technology is accelerating, but human life is still the same. And so when you had maybe decades or centuries to adapt a society to a new technology, we're now having like few years or months. And so there's a question of how to reconciliate the time to adopt this technology for society and changing the society, which requires a human scale of time, respect to how fast this technology is shaping the world, which is now accelerating even more and more and faster every day. So this balance is something we should look into detail and be mindful.
Okay. Someone has a less optimistic view. He says, or she, I'm not sure. To me, it looks like we are moving towards even more inequality and dominance of few for-profit private companies, while the rest of the world will fight to survive. How to overcome this? Do you believe in the universal basic income?
Yeah,
I think it's more towards AGI if we get that right.
Yeah, I think the prior is actually absolutely wrong. This is very like Occidental West centric, because that's true that on most of the Occidental countries, the indicators of like inequality not that good. But actually, if you look around the world, I can tell you that a lot of countries are now getting out of poverty, like China, like India, all these countries. That's where the true poor were and massively living. And there's less and less every day. And that has been the case in the last 20 years. So inequality, I would argue that inequality is decreasing overall around the world. I don't think it's solved. I think there's still a lot of things to do. I'm not saying there's no like poor in Occidental countries at all. But I think we should look at that through the prism of the entire world and not just one country or another one.
Yeah, of course, I think most of the people we have in this community are from Europe, and they are worried about their jobs, simply and plainly said, because they maybe are not able to follow with all of this technology, and they see this is very powerful, very good for society, but yeah, what should I do if I don't have a job? Yeah.
No, and that's totally legit. I mean, this worry is absolutely legit. I think overall, this technology is creating a lot of value for the world. We will have probably to spend less time at work and earn more money and create more values thanks to this technology. 100 years ago, people were like spending only 10% of their life for hobbies. The rest was working, sleeping, basically. Now it's 60%. If thanks to AI, it can be 90% of hobbies and living better, longer, more wealthy. That's good. I think this technology can afford that. But I absolutely agree that We need some regulation around that, some balance of the wealth that will be created, and it's not obvious. So that absolutely.
And
I just disagree with the fact that this created more inequality, but I absolutely agree that we need to balance the wealth much more.
Yeah, okay, looking at the time, we have only 2 minutes left, and we have the last block, which is the personal general or recommendations. What AI applications are you most excited about and push you to improve the frontier of the next LLMs?
Say again, what?
Yeah, what kind of AI applications are you most excited about?
A personal assistant that will do all the tasks requiring some steps on the internet and things like that.
Just for ourselves, right? I think this is like a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have, so what are the best areas to make a startup in 2024 for people interested in AI, maybe good at software, but not experts as you are in AI? What kind of businesses will probably not survive the next Llama or OpenAI or Google release?
Look, I don't have the answer. I have just a good criteria to apply for your ideas. This technology will grow and accelerate and become better and better every year. So you should not solve a problem with a lot of engineering things like that you will expect the next generation of model becoming like 10x better, that will make your business obsolete. If actually your business becomes better because the models improve their performance over time, that's a good sign.
Yeah, I have thought a lot about this, and the only conclusion I get is you need your own data, which is no one else has. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what you do, because the general cognition will increase and increase.
Yeah, or just a product that embeds this technology and solve some actual problems, and the product will become better and better thanks to better models.
All right. What and why AI tools do you use in your daily routines? Not necessarily work, but also if you have some AI tools that you use, like ChatGPT or something.
Well, yeah, I use Llama and ChatGPT, both. I use VS Code and Copilot there. But no, on my daily life, I used to use ChatGPT. I used to use, now I use on Meta AI on Messenger. What else?
Meta AI is not yet available in Europe, right?
No, but I'm an employee, so I can test it.
Okay, lucky
so,
you.
And it's getting good. That's, yeah. And I can't wait for those models to become like reliable 10x more than now and actually become like our personal assistant in daily basis.
All right. Last question, and we are exactly on the edge of the time. Can you tell us about your AI stack? So I guess people expect that you use weights and biases for evaluations, but maybe not. Do you have no?
I use VS Code and that's it. And
really?
some repeaters, yeah. I mean, no, internally there's some people using weight and biases. I tend to feel like I don't want to spend too much time on a framework specifically. And things change fast. We integrate new things. There's new requirements, things like that. So I tend to think like just Google the Google Doc, Excel files with Google Sheet with the results are a good way to maintain results.
All right, Thomas, we are exactly at the end of the time. Thank you so much for taking this 1 hour with us. We covered exactly all the questions. And with this, we close for today. Again, thank you from everyone from the community, and wish you a good day and time ahead.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Carlos. And thanks everyone for listening. And yeah, see you later.
Bye. All right. Bye-bye.